5, solving equations involving absolute value. In this lesson, we're going to evaluate absolute value expressions and solve absolute value equations. Let's look at the why question. In 2007, a telephone poll was conducted to determine the reading habits of people in the United States. People in this survey were allowed to select more than one type of book. And as you see to the right, they had religious, popular fiction, and romance. The survey has a margin of error of plus or negative 3%. This means that the results could be 3 points higher or lower. So the percent of people who read religious material could be as high as 69% or as low as 63%. So with these problems that we're going to focus on is absolute value. Absolute value is the distance a number is from zero. Moving on to section 1. It says absolute value expressions. Expressions with absolute value defines an upper and lower range in which a value must lie. Expressions involving absolute value can be evaluated using the given value for the variable. Let's look at example 1. It says evaluate the absolute value of m plus 6 minus 14 if m equals 4. So we're going to replace m with 4, and now we have to take the absolute value of 4 plus 6, which is 10. The absolute value of a number is how far it is from 0. So the absolute value of 10 is 10 because it's 10 spaces away from 0. Then we subtract, we simplify, we get negative 4. If we do the same problem below and evaluate it, plugging in the value of x with 2, we have 23 minus the absolute value of 3 minus 4 times 2. So we have 23 minus the absolute value of 3 minus 8, 23 minus absolute value of negative 5. Absolute value of negative 5 is 5. So 23 minus 5 is 18. So this is how we get 18. Absolute value, the distance a number is from 0. Section 2, absolute value equations. The margin of error in the example at the top of the page is an example of absolute value. The distance between 66 and 69 on a number line is the same as the distance between 63 and 66. So it's the same distance, 3 units. So from 63 to 66 is 3, and from 66 to 69 is 3. There are 3 types of open sentences involving absolute value. Absolute value of x equals n, absolute value of x is less than n, and absolute value of x is greater than n. In this lesson, you will consider only one type, the first type. Look at equation, absolute value of x equals 4. So we're going to only deal with this part in this lesson. This simply means that the distance between 0 and x is 4. So between 0 and x, when they told us x is 4, you can have the possible solution of negative 4 and 4. And thus, this is a solution set. Again, when you see these brackets, that's a solution set. For each absolute value equation, you must consider both cases, the positive and the negative. To solve an absolute value equation, first isolate the absolute value on one side of the equal sign if it is not already by itself. And we're going to look at some examples. Again, your textbook gives you the key concept box, and the key concept box just demonstrates or outlines how to find the answer to the solution to your equation. Let's look at example 2. It says solve each equation, then graph the solution set. For the purpose of the video, we're not going to focus on graphing. We're not going to focus on graphing just yet. I want you to work on the case 1 and case 2 on solving the equation for both cases. So the first thing we're going to do is write it as if it was a positive. You notice this is a positive 17. Then case 2 is in a negative 17. So f plus 5 equals 17. subtracting 5 from both sides, f equals 12. Then in case 2, you let it be negative 17. We're going to subtract 5 from each side, and f equals negative 22. So this is the only part we're going to focus on now. I want you to just focus on setting up the two equations and solving for the positives and the negatives. For the positives and the negatives. Okay? Look at B. Absolute value of negative 1 equals negative 3. Pay attention to this section. This problem means the distance between B and 1 is a negative 3. Since the distance cannot be negative, the solution is an empty set. The solution is an empty set. Whenever you have a problem that starts out in the negative, your answer is automatically empty set. Because you can't have the absolute value of anything be negative. Because again, absolute value is the distance a number is from 0. So if your initial problem starts off in the negative, you don't have to work the problem. You just write empty set. Okay? Let's look at example 4. It says study tips. Please focus on these study tips when they're outlined for you in your text. They're very important. Okay? It says find the midpoint. To find the midpoint, to find the point midway between 2 points, add the values together and divide by 2. Sounds like median. So for example 4, this example right here, 11 plus 19 is 30. 30 divided by 2 is 15. So the midpoint in between 11 and 19 is 15. So now they go into this example. Find the midpoint that is the same distance from 11 and 19. This is the midpoint between 11 and 19, 15. So we can write an equation from that. We know the absolute value of x minus my midpoint equals 4. Okay? So this is the equation for this graph that we see up here. Because once we find our midpoint, we count. How many units is it away? From 11 to 15, it's 1, 2, 3, 4 units away. So we have 4 and 4. That's where this 4 comes from. Our midpoint tells us what we're taking away from our x, what we're taking away from our absolute value. Okay, so this x can be 11 or 19, and we will get this 4. Okay? I hope that you found this lesson to be helpful, or these examples to be helpful, and we will discuss more in class